All right, let's get to the next matchup. Let's go down to the Peach Bowl. Basically a home game for Georgia. Georgia's going to be favored. They're a great team, folks. I mean, a great team. This is going to be a great game, I believe. Ohio State, 5th playoff appearance. Georgia's 3rd. Now, I think it's pretty obvious, all due respect to Ohio State's defense and Georgia's offense, and that's clearly going to be a matchup that we could focus on as well. But the real matchup that I can't wait to see is that Ohio State offense against the Georgia defense. And it's pretty clear. Georgia, over the last 38 games, you go back all the way, to the start of 2020, this is a defense that is a great defense. In fact, they've only given up over 400 yards 4 times in those games, 38 games. They're 1-3 in those games. So they're 34-0 when they give up less than 400 yards. So the whole game for me is going to be, can you move the ball if you're Ohio State, and can you obviously, sustain drives on 3rd down and punch it in when you get into the red zone? That's something they struggled with against Michigan. Georgia's defense is the number 1 defense in the country as far as red zone touchdown percentage goes. So something's got to give. Let's take a look at some of the elements here with this matchup. Let's start on the offensive side. Ohio State's offense, I believe that they're going to have to throw the ball so effectively because it's so difficult to run against the Georgia defense. Very similar to what Alabama was doing last year against them in the SEC championship game. You've got to have a great quarterback and great wide receiver play. Here is a great example against Michigan State of CJ Stroud off of a play fake, reading the defense down the field, and he's on the same page with his wide receiver. Look how early that ball comes out, and Harrison Jr. can just run right through it. So great ball placement, yards after the catch. How's that created? Timing and ball placement. Good read, all of those things, and they're on the same page as far as the read and the back end of the defense. Now let's take a look at another play. And this is the one where I feel like is an example of CJ Stroud just going above the X's and O's, because Ohio State actually gets beat up front and there's a free rusher right in his face. But he knows he has a one-on-one down below, so what does he do? Even off his back foot, look at that throw. What? I mean, crazy good throw. You can't teach that. If you're a quarterback coach, you cannot teach that. Back foot, fade away, dropped in the bucket like that. That was some sensational stuff from CJ Stroud, and he's going to have to play that well against Georgia. And he also needs his wide receivers, namely Marvin Harrison Jr., to step up and be at their best. And let's look at what Marvin Harrison Jr. can do. So first and foremost, similar to the last play, you get a one-on-one down here. Look at this. Penn State, you want to come up and bump Marvin Harrison Jr.? Well, if you don't have safety help over the top and he drops down, then guess what? You're about to get a fade thrown on you. Almost every time you get into this situation, what are they going to do? Throw a fade. Look at him create separation, and then he's free away from the sideline. He gives his quarterback a little bit of room right there in the no-tread area to throw the ball over the top, and it's a completion. So he's really good in the one-on-one scenario, but he's also physical. And this is one of the elements of his game that I don't think gets enough credit. But watching the same game against Penn State, he's working on a 3rd down. He's going against now Joey Porter Jr., so one of the best corners in college football, a physical, long corner. And I want you to watch at the top of his route. He's going to run an in-breaking route. He's got to get to the chains. He's got to create space. But Porter Jr. is going to be all over him. Watch this. So he's trying to create space right there. Hold, no flag. What does he do? He doesn't whine and cry. He stays past the chains, the line to gain, and goes and creates space, and it's a catch. You can't coach that either. That's just God-given ability. Then later in the game, something else happens, and this is when you absolutely need it. Okay, you need to create a 1st down here. Let's take a look at what's going to go on. Penn State has to get off the field. It's 3rd and 10. This is their opportunity. And what are they going to do? They're going to blitz everybody. So Marvin Harrison Jr. correctly reads what's going on, and watch as he's got a little nuance to getting himself free on the slant. He reads it correctly with CJ Stroud, so boom. But right there, listen, he knows he's got to get to the 1st down. Rewind it back just a little bit. Watch this. Boom, head down behind his pads, and he goes through 2 defenders. So he's a smart player on 3rd down as well. Ohio State's going to need to make plays like that in order to beat Georgia. The reason is because it's so difficult to beat Georgia. They're so sound. See, they play great complementary defense. This year, when you're looking at, like when I watched the film against Tennessee, let's say, going into that game, they didn't have great sack numbers. So I thought, man, are they going to be able to create enough pressure, get to the quarterback, Hendon Hooker, in order to slow down that passing game. Well, they did it, but it was actually complementary, meaning that it was sometimes the defensive line creating the pressure when necessary and protecting the secondary. And then other times it was the secondary executing beautiful coverage and affording the defensive line time to get to the quarterback. Let's take a look at some of that complementary defense from Georgia. Okay, rather than structures, you're just going to look at this. You've got 3rd and 5, and Tennessee actually runs the choice route properly, but you've got a defender right in Hendon Hooker's face, so he can't step into the throw, and so a wide open receiver doesn't get the first down. Why? Because the defensive line was there. They were doing their job, complementary football. So the defensive back can stay over the top. He knows that, hey, you know what? I'm going to get some help right there, and they get pressure in the face of the quarterback. Now let's move to the next clip because it's basically the exact opposite. So now it's just a 1st and 10, normal 1st and 10. The coverage is outstanding. On top of trail position of those wide receivers, help over the top. You see Hendon Hooker had to pump the ball a little bit. What happens? The rush gets home. You see, so depending on the situation, Georgia understands what they need to do. If they need to get to the quarterback immediately, what type of coverage they need to be in like a 1st and 10 situation. And when you're talking about a Tennessee passing game that had torched everybody to that point, they really didn't do anything against Georgia, in part because Georgia is good in both areas, both the pass rush and the pass defensive coverage. So that's what they're going to face, meaning Ohio State against Georgia. I think it should be an absolutely a terrific matchup. Again, that's what I'm looking for. Georgia is so good, and I'm going to favor them in this game, probably pick them in this game. But because of what Ohio State has on the offensive side, and namely their quarterback Stroud and wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr., this is one of the matchups in the country that you would look at if you're Georgia and you're like, okay, this is one of our tougher matchups that we could possibly have throughout college football. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoy that clip, make sure you click subscribe somewhere down here. From game highlights to exclusive interviews and rankings, we've got everything you need as a college football fan right here, College Football on Fox.